And on this Wednesday, March 26th, 2025 edition of Newsmakers, a new study from the Cultural Research Center at Arizona Christian University reveals a sharp divide between Americans' self-reported Christian identity and their belief in a core doctrine, the Trinity, where the God of the Bible exists as one inseparable deity in three persons, God the Father, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. The study says though 2 out of 3 Americans call themselves Christians, only 11% of all adults and 16% of self-proclaimed Christians affirm the foundational tenet. The findings, part of the annual American Worldview Inventory 2025 series directed by researcher Dr. George Barna, highlight a broader trend of misunderstanding or rejection of fundamental biblical teachings among the U.S. population. The research shows the concept of the Trinity is neither widely understood nor embraced, posing challenges for churches, families, and the nation's spiritual landscape. Acceptance of the Trinity varies across demographic and religious lines. The standout group is adults with a biblical worldview, of whom nearly 2/3, 62%, believe in the Trinity, the only segment where more than 40% affirm all three persons. Barna voiced alarm at the findings' implications, saying the report underscores a theological crisis in a country where Christianity remains the dominant faith by self-identification. The report says the gap between identity and belief signals a challenge for churches to address core doctrines effectively. As President Trump moves to dismantle the education department, governors in several Republican-led states are pressing the Trump administration to cut strings attached to their federal education money. Iowa put itself forward as a test case this month, asking the Education Department to consolidate its federal aid into a single grant called a block grant with few spending requirements. Oklahoma submitted a similar request yesterday, asking for more flexibility to steer federal money toward areas including private school and religious education options. The idea has failed to gain support in Congress in the past, but Iowa and Oklahoma are suggesting the Trump administration has the power to act alone. Conservatives are calling it the natural next step in Trump's promise to shut down the Education Department and give more power to states. The Meade School Board in the Spokane area took comments Monday night concerning transgender athletes participating in women's sports. President Trump issued an executive order banning transgender athletes from playing on women's teams. Washington state law allows it. The Washington Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction found the Meade School District's policy out of line with state law. OSPI gave the board 30 days to bring the policy into compliance. The Meade School Board asked federal officials for clarification. Meanwhile, the U.S. Department of Education has opened an investigation into Portland Public Schools, Oregon's largest school district, over allowing a transgender athlete to compete on their high school girls' track and field team. The federal agency says it was investigating whether this violated Title IX, a 1972 law barring sex discrimination in education. The Education Department says it is also investigating the Oregon School Activities Association over its gender identity participation policy. A Portland public school superintendent says the district is cooperating with the investigation and working to navigate the complex legal landscape. Republican Congressman Doug LaMalfa of California has reintroduced a bill aiming to block federal funding for gender transition procedures. Chris Powers has the story.
The End Taxpayer Funding of Gender Experimentation Act seeks to prohibit federal healthcare facilities from offering such procedures, citing taxpayer concerns. Supporters argue the bill protects minors and limits controversial spending, with exemptions for medically verifiable disorders. LaMalfa has pushed similar legislation before following reports of federal spending on these treatments, including by the Department of Defense. I'm Chris Powers.
The doctors who took care of Pope Francis say the 88-year-old pontiff was close to death during his recent stay at a Rome hospital. Tammy Trujillo has details.
The Pope was admitted in mid-February for a respiratory infection and was finally released 5 weeks later last Sunday. During his stay, he had several breathing emergencies that put his life in danger. The lead doctor in care of the Pope said Tuesday the most critical moment came in late February, when they had to decide whether to stop treatment on Francis or to use drugs that might damage his organs. He said they decided not to give up. The Pope is now recuperating at his residence in Vatican City. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
And that's Newsmakers for this Wednesday, March 26th, 2025 edition. I'm Keith Black.